Good morning, guys. So my seedlings are doing amazing and they should be ready to go out into the garden in about a month. But first we need to take care of something out there because I've got a huge problem going on. So the good news is most of my corn has reached its end and is starting to die back. And I don't have a whole lot of plants in here, but what I do have is a ton of Bermuda grass. And this itself is a row where I'm supposed to be planting brassicas in a month. And I would have been fine with the grass growing in between the rows, but no, it has decided to grow exactly where I water my plants, which makes sense, but it still stinks. So I need to get rid of this Bermuda grass, or at least just kill it back a little bit, or I won't have any success with my plants because the grass will absolutely just take up all of the water and nutrients when these guys are young little seedlings. And since I'm an organic gardener and I don't use herbicides or anything like that, I'm going to sheet mulch it. And what is sheet mulching, you ask? Looks a little something like this. See how that grass is more brown, it's dying back, it has no light. This was just from a cardboard piece that I had kept on here over the last couple weeks. And ideally I would want to see all of that completely dead, but we actually got some rain for the first time this summer a couple days ago. And there's not a whole lot of cardboard on there. The grass is around the edges. There's a lot of it that can still send energy to the other parts of the plant. So what I'm gonna do is use a black tarp in conjunction with this terrible sun that I have been loathing all season, and we are going to kill the Bermuda grass row by row. So I bought this black tarp last year. This year for the spring. I used it in my in-ground garden that went the way of the squash bugs, and it is just a very thick piece of black tarp. There are silage tarps you can use. You can buy them online at like gardening stores. They are extremely expensive, but if you live in a place that has like really rocky ground, or you're leaving it out in a field for a very long time, wind and rain and animals and bugs, they can chew through tarps pretty fast, and you don't want your silage tarp to have any holes in it that will let in light and large amounts of water, because then the plants could still grow underneath it. I don't have to worry about a whole lot of that except for the wind in the spring here. I just have sun. So I just bought this, I don't remember how many mils it is. If I can find it again, I'll put it on the bottom of this video. I think it was like 10 bucks for, I want to say it was like a 10 by 20 foot tarp. And it's really thick. It only has a couple holes in it from last year's usage, and that's mostly because Freya and Zeus would walk all over it in the yard. So you don't have to spend a ton of money on silage tarps. Go to Harbor Freight or somewhere and just make sure you get a really thick black tarp. Now what I'm going to do is figure out how I want to position this. I want to cover more than one row at a time so I can try and kill a large amount at once. But I do also have plants here. Right here I have some red and green chilies. There I have some peppers. And right there I have an okra. Now, see, and this is what I was worried about. This is a watermelon, and I have one over there as well. And it's not too late in the season to be getting a watermelon from these plants, but I just don't know if I care about them enough to not kill them because there's so much Bermuda grass here. See, I have this little puny guy. Look at how ridiculous this looks. And he is not ready. So, I don't know. Do I care about him? I think I'm more worried about the Bermuda grass than getting 2 tiny baby watermelons in about a month. So what I'm going to do is lay it longwise across here and just try and kill everything. So I just weighed it down with a few pieces of wood in some corners. I'm not expecting high winds anytime soon, but if there are, I'll just add more later. I'm not entirely sure that's going to work in the short amount of time that I have. I only have about a month before I need to get these plants out here. And I still need to start more seeds, my cooler, cold tolerant versions of the more heat tolerant plants that I have started. But it's really all I've got because I have been incessantly weeding Bermuda grass with my hands, which sometimes works for the most part if the grass is like sparse and few and far between, but those are just giant mats of Bermuda grass that have just thrived because it's the only location here that gets water. So they've completely taken over those areas, and I don't want to re-till that ground again because I'm do my best to do a no-till in-ground garden bed, and if I have to get the tiller back in there, it's going to kill a ton of beneficial bacteria and microbes that don't like to be exposed to air and light. So I'm going to try and smother that grass, and hopefully it will work. If not, I might just not be able to plant in that location this year, which might not be too bad because right here under this shade cloth area, the Bermuda grass is pretty sparse. I've really kept up on it over here, and it's definitely not as matted in these parts of the rows as it is out there. So I may be able to just plant brassicas in this area and leave that over the winter to completely die out. But I wanted to show you guys something I found the other day. Look at this guy. This is a potato. This is from one of the green potatoes that I harvested that I just stick back in the ground if they're not edible. And I have another one right here. So I'll have a couple fall potatoes coming up. Of course, they're nothing to write home about. They'll probably be like 2 or 3 potatoes each plant, but I did put quite a few spuds back in the ground, so I might have some more potato plants come up in the near future. We'll see. And I saw this growing the other day, which was pretty interesting. I feel like this is a cabbage. I'm thinking it's a cabbage or maybe a rutabaga. No, I think it's a cabbage. I don't know how it's here. I didn't drop any seeds here last year for cabbage, not that I'm aware of at least. But I also cut a lot of these plants off at the stem so that the roots can stay in and nourish the soil, break down and nourish the soil. And sometimes when I cut these plants off, they kind of just go dormant and then start to regrow a little while later. That might be what happened. I'm not sure. But that'll be cool if it grows to full size and I get a cabbage out of it in the middle of summer. As for any other fall garden prep, I'm not pulling anything out yet. My tomatoes are still going, even though they look rather sickly. I've got a bunch of little tomatoes right here. All of my herbs are still going. I think the first thing that might come out is going to be the purple whole pink eye beans because they've done everything they're gonna do. They've given me all the beans. I've got a few flowers on them, but for the most part they look pretty terrible. See, I've got a flower or two right here. It's just, I don't think it's worth it. I can take these beans out on both sides of the trellis, and this is where I can plant my fall peas, my green shelling peas, so that they can start going here in about a month as well. But everything else looks pretty amazing, especially this tomato plant. But I still think it's a giant crimson, and I have already started saving seeds from this guy because just look how vibrant and green and lush it is. And I've got tons of okra here. All in this bed I've got okra with a few smattering of beans that I've been picking off of daily. But this is not a garden tour, so I will not give you a garden tour because that's going to be in a separate video for my August garden tour. Just wanted you guys to come along with me as I try and get rid of the devil grass, Bermuda grass. It's both a blessing and a curse because it's the only thing that will grow here on my property. It's really the primary grass for this area because it's very heat tolerant, and when we have no water, which is all the time. It just kind of goes dormant, but it stays alive. But unfortunately, it's in the place that I don't want it to be. And I could possibly sheet mulch with more cardboard, like in between plants in the spaces. It just doesn't do as well of a job as the black tarp, because along with the black tarp just being more sturdy and less porous than the cardboard, it's also black and it's super hot. And once you get that sun baking down on that black tarp, that like heat dome underneath there will help along with the killing of the Bermuda grass. So we'll see how it goes. I'll leave it on for about a week and then peel it up and see what it looks like. If it's moving faster than my little cardboard experiment that I showed you guys at the beginning, then I think that'll work. But like I said, I might not be able to plant in there this fall, and I am not going to continue to try and rip a Bermuda grass with my hands for the rest of the season. That is exhausting. Thank you guys for joining me today. I have been under the weather for the past few days, which is why there's been an absence of videos, but I'm back, and I will catch you guys on the next one.